Good afternoon. We're in a Saturday early in the semester, and I tried to redo my classes, and I noticed that a fair number of people are kind of confused by what I've done. It's certainly not my intent. I tried to make this as straightforward as possible. I've taught under kind of a module system before, but a lot of people complained that they couldn't understand when and what was due, and so I modified this to see if maybe I could get us to a better space. But let me go in and see if I can explain to you the schedule and how things work. You'll see I've got the schedule for this is Blackboard at St. Louis Community College. I'll flick over and we'll go into the Canvas system at UMSL. Very different. This is brand new to me. It's my final semester of teaching, and it's got a lot of defaults that just don't make much sense to me. Blackboard I had 18 years of experience with, and I'm fairly good at getting things to go. All right, I probably have the wrong schedule up. So I'm going to bring up the one that I put into this folder because I've got one saved on my desktop that I brought up. But I want to bring up, I believe this is the last iteration of our schedule. And so those of you, so going back, if you're in St. Louis Community College, it's in the schedule. And you should be able to click on this and download it. I think it's got a menu. You can open it. You don't want to overwrite this file. But you should save that off to 2 or 3 locations like the cloud. But let's see if we can get this thing to, yeah, so this will download. This is what everybody should be doing. I'm going to save it out to my desktop. I've slowly become, this is kind of where I save it to, and then when I get to a final space, I'll save it into an archive folder, but it should hopefully open up pretty soon. If you don't have Microsoft or something that will open Microsoft, you may or may not be able to right click on this and save it as a PDF. I have not done that with all of these files, but you should be able to do that. I don't know that it shouldn't open in a Mac, but you do need Excel or something that will read Excel. You also need Word in this class. All right, so let's bring this up to a bigger space. And you can see that this talks about, and I think I might, if I were you, go ahead and enable editing, because you can take this and modify it real easily. What you probably want to do is, see, I've got the little save here menu going. You can say, I want to change the name of this thing. And so you just use the original file folder as I put it, or you rename it, and then maybe add your initials or something else so that you've got a file you're working with and that you've got this saved. Whether you need to print this out at times or not, that's completely up to you. It will stay in the folder all the way through. So let's go all the way to the beginning of the document. And first of all is kind of an introduction and caveats about the class itself. I'm not going to spend time there. It's an attempt to get you to understand that this is not a tiddlywinks class. This is, we're going to study the legal environment of business. The very title of the class kind of intimidates me to some extent. Anytime I'm looking at the law, I figure it's probably relatively complex. I'm not going to walk in understanding everything. And I may struggle quite a bit. All right, so let's go in and I'll try to make this fairly quick and look at exactly what this schedule does and what I hope it does for you, because what it's meant to do is try to keep you on track. So we look at it, down here on the bottom, we've got 4 tabs. First 4 weeks, second 4 weeks, third 4 weeks, and last 4 weeks. They're really only 3 weeks, but I'm counting the finals week too. So study weeks, we've only got 15, then we've got another week for finals. So in week 1, here's the text and what I think you should be reading. All right. If you click on these hyperlinks, it takes you out to YouTube video lectures. Here's one on the Constitution. I believe there are something like 5 total videos for the Constitution. It's up to you whether you want to watch all of those. In the LRP, this link takes you out to something that I hope explains the legal research project. I can't say that enough times. LRP stands for Legal Research Project. You don't have to do research right off the bat, but as we're getting closer to analysis of that discussion board, you're going to find that you need to be able to do some research. You've actually got to go find some law is part of what we've got. I guess I'm not sophisticated enough to have placed a link for Titanic, read the document, but both of those are semester-long discussion boards, Legal Research Project, and then the Wreck of the Titanic. I've also grouped them over here in discussion boards. We have a total of 3 discussion boards. Let's start with the one that doesn't start until week 3, and it clearly says begins week 3. If I click on that, you'll notice it highlighted down here where it says section A. And then let me just see what I'm going to see where this takes me. I don't remember where I put all of these. It takes me out. Hello, time to. And this is actually the wrong video. I'd sent an announcement out recently that sends you to the right one. I re-recorded, or I recorded a new video about how to find the Wall Street Journal. But this gives you an introduction. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just modified a little. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. But if you click on these links and you get to a video, I highly recommend that you try to get back to my home page. And I think if you click down here on my little face, it runs you to my home page. And I don't know whether you can subscribe here or or whether you want to subscribe here. I'm not trying to drive business to my channel. I don't make any money off of this. But I think that as I record videos and post, if you have a subscription, it'll show up. Oh, the professor just posted another video. If nothing else, you can go look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's probably helpful to somebody else. It doesn't really work to me, or that's for, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be recording. I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I got to record some videos. So let's see, where were we? Oh yeah, we need to get back to our schedule. Oopsie, come on. All right, so that was Wall Street Journal. All right, we're looking at the others, Legal Research Project. And I guess my instructions here are not as good as they could be. Locate your 2 scenarios. And what I want you to do is make an initial post in each. And I think if you watch this whole video, it will tell you what I really want you to do is go find the document, the Legal Research Project document. It's either in the Files folder at UMSL or in the Course Content menu folder at St. Louis Community College. You find the 2 numbers you've been assigned to. Let me see if I can get this up, and then I've got to try to move away so I can see names. you've been assigned in the LRP to 2 page numbers. And so there you're going to go in. This person has 1 and 7. They go to page 1 of 1 or 1 of 10, and then page 7 of 10, and just copy the contents of that page into the discussion board for that group. So if we go to the discussion board, and these should be relatively, I just love this. I don't know why. All right, there's anonymous posts. We're going to set me as the poster. It's a little odd that that's weird, that's sitting there. All right, so we're going to go to the legal research project. These should look relatively similar. They may not be identical, but group 1 is group 1 of 10. Group 10 is group 10 of 10. So that person would go into group 1 and into group 7. Individually, they would copy the contents of problem 1 into group 1. For anonymity purposes, I'm not going to visit because we can see that people have posted in these classes. Everybody does this. If you don't do it, you don't get the points for it. This is not a class to be throwing points away going, oh, I don't really need this and I don't need that. This is a class of kind of plodding slowly. You'll get through it and do what the instructor says. My instructions are not always going to be crystal clear, but as you've already seen, if students write me about, hey, what did you put this in there, what do you mean by that? I try to answer that. What I usually do is I answer that in an announcement. And the reason I use announcements is that always goes out to the full class, and then it's also sitting there for students who ask later. I just got an email about half an hour ago about a student who just added the class. Those of you who've been in the class for a week go, oh boy, probably, because at least judging by some of what I'm getting for feedback, this is an overwhelming class. So the next one, all right, so now if we look at this, we just kind of scrolled through. Let's look at the LRP, or let's look at the text. You can see we're moving to different chapters. There may or may not be, it looks like to me on chapters 2, 5, 3, and 4, there's no video, okay? The professor has said, you guys read the book, you do those practice exercises. I've loaded up a general content video on those 4 chapters. The textbook authors choose one way, I chose a different. And anytime you see this highlighted blue, that's a hyperlink, all right? And then we can see already in week 2 what we're supposed to be doing. Clark versus MKT, read the modified opinion. So you got to go into the course documents and find Clark versus MKT, and you'll find a file that says modified in its file name. That's what I want you to read. And you got to start reading that. It's about 22 pages long. The majority of it is testimony, but there is some very challenging legal reasoning that you've got to read. All right. So let's look at where we are on the Titanic. Sorry, I know this kind of bounces and this doesn't make much sense. If you play with it and begin to look at it, I've repeated this pattern all the way through. So basically what we have here is the text, what you're supposed to be reading, and what I'll be lecturing on is basically going to be here. The LRP, the Titanic. First things, here's some ideas or things you ought to do. And then I'm going to, in the other part, talk about major projects that aren't simply covered somewhere else or that I didn't have space for elsewhere, because I'm trying to keep this relatively compact so that you can control it, you can print it out, you've got the whole thing. Let's see what it says in the last 4 weeks. We can see that, we're kind of retaining that same basic deal. And the one thing that disappears is the Wall Street Journal. That's I've separately explained that. I'm not going to talk about that. We do that week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we do that for 5 weeks in a row. It's separately explained, but you're going to see it's just not there. So basically, in the second 4 weeks, we finish this before week 8. It will have finished last week. It says under the second 4 weeks tab. So, let's do quickly the Wall Street Journal. Last thing you're going to do is the opinions. The time before that, you're going into sections C or D, which are kind of the supplement stuff. This one's a little confusing, section BHOTS. But if you go into the discussion board, it's going to say heard on the street. Section B, heard on the street. So you go into the DB, you'll see that. That's going to be in week 5. So you're going to read an article out of the designated section every week, make a single post by Wednesday, 2 reply posts to other students by Sunday. And that's also something we're going to see a lot of, is every weekend's on Sunday. So I think you ought to do your best to be done by Sunday. If periodically you're done by Monday, that's okay. If it's a continuous habit that you're always 3 to 4 or 5 days late with everything, what would you do as the professor? Would you just tell the student, oh, no big deal? No, a lot of businesses document that carefully. And when the time comes to downsize, the people who are habitually late, holding up projects, get downsized. It's your choice. You do what you want. All I have are grade points to give to you to try to help you understand that choice may or may not have been in your best long-term interest. Getting a B or a C in this course isn't necessarily going to ruin your life, but depending on where you are in your GPA, it could ruin your chances of getting into graduate school. Some graduate schools are going to look at classes like this that they know are really hard and see if you got at least a B in it. As I've said multiple times, if you work fairly hard in this class, you get an A. You've got to keep up and you've got to keep going. All right, so the one that I think I didn't do a very good job on is this Clark case analysis. All right, we basically break this down into a 4-week paper, a 2-week paper, a 5-week paper, and a 3-week paper. And the way to find that, let me see, I think it's a little clear. No, it should be about the same. You go into assignments. I don't like the way stuff is organized in Canvas. Here's test 1. Very quickly, you've got 5 weeks to work on this at your leisure. All right, I'm not going to go in. I'm going to probably record another video in a few minutes on that one. But what you can see as you go into assignments is you're going to see Clark versus MKT. I think I've got it in. All right, so I load the modified file right here. So you should be able to right click or download or do whatever. And you just do these in order. So we're going to go through the facts first. That's 4 weeks long. And if you click on this, and I apologize, UMSL students, I do have more UMSL students, but you've got the same due date. All right, you click on that, there's your due date. Points possible, if you want to, print this page. Okay, and I put in bold the formatting requirements. If you have any questions, please email me, because generally if you have a question, other students do. And if I don't think everybody has that same question, I may just respond to you personally, or I may just write one of those A Student Writes announcements. So going back into the schedule, what I've done here in this schedule is to give you a kind of week by week. Here's where I think A student who wants to not write this the night before it's due ought to be doing week 1. Here's what I think you ought to be doing week 2. Here, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And notice week 4, when it's due, upload your statement of facts. Okay? And I put a little caveat in here. You have to have those file types. That is because it has a track change feature that I use to give you feedback. I believe I've got this as 130 points. Yeah, that's right. It's worth 40 for the facts, 20 for a little legal dilemma is the second part, and then 2 sections of 30 that talk about the old law, the old common law, and, excuse me, little lunch coming back, and then what happened after Congress acted and passed the Federal Employers Liability Act. All right, we got 2 more projects that show up on the schedule and that are very important. You'll notice the test, because we've only got the 1 test, doesn't really appear until week 3. And here I'm telling you, look, I told you about it in week 1. If you haven't started working on it, you better start now. Definitely by now, we've covered everything that is going to be on the test, because it's chapters 1 through 5 plus the Constitution is basically it. So what we've got is mock trial. I need to, it looks like in week 2, I've got to do something shortly after I record this video. I've got to create the group spaces for the mock trial, and I'll create a defendant's page, a plaintiff's page, and a court page in all of these files. I'm going to make a little note to myself just to do that, because I think I'm more in a recording video deal right now. But I'll get that set up. I don't have it set up right now. I think I didn't do that because I wasn't sure. Who knows? I got some kind of weak excuse. Then this next thing, unfortunately, links to a bad video, but I put a better video in, and this is the case presentation. And what I'm trying to get you to do in this case presentation, week by week, is to get you to think about, what should I be doing? How do I get this case ready for me to present it? My thinking is it should take you in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 weeks to be kind of ready to get this done. Here I've got you at week 6. In week 7, I think you ought to be practicing and doing a test run on this. Week 8, do it again, provide feedback to peers, let's improve. At this point, I don't know if I've created, I think what I'll probably do is create a discussion board for the case presentation itself. To do feedback, what I've said here is do a test run and put it in the mock trial discussion board. At this point, I'll make another note about case presentation. So my pen decided not to write. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, that one works. I'll probably create another discussion board where you'll actually post your MP4 videos. You need to begin looking at, hey, how do I do screen capture software? There are a variety of free screen captures that work. I don't care what you work. Ultimately, you need something you can download as a video that myself and 4 other students can work on. I will be setting up schedules for us to do this, but notice that the case presentation is due week 10, okay? And that's pretty typical for my, and then from then we've got some grading stuff that goes on to there. So what I'm trying to do all through this is, I go back through, I give you lectures, I give you the chapter numbers. Let me see what this is. What this is. Oh yeah, here we go. It's just leading you. It's just telling you, okay, that's just a link to this other in the LRP. As we go along, I want to flesh this out, but hopefully, maybe I should go back to the LRP because this is a little, oh yeah, let me go back and look at LRP and Titanic. What you're going to look at each week in the LRP, I'm going to give you um, a specific assignment. All right, pick an issue, research the law on that topic, post. In the Titanic introduction exploration of liabilities, there's a Titanic underscore F14 for fall of 14 when I first made this. And you need to follow that. What I've done is each of the discussion board threads is the title you've got on the spreadsheet, or the title you get of the threads inside that discussion board. And so we just keep moving down that paper, the fall 14. We'll give you the instructions for that part of it. Do it under the, I tell you what I want to see in remedies for survivors in week 7. That's what you post on. Okay. So here we're looking at, I've made a suggestion, research damages in the LRP, research the law. I've put this over here. I want you to professionally reply to 2 posts of 2 candidates. So let me see if I get it. Anyway, I kind of walk through and hopefully this makes some sense. I don't want to walk through each one of these. I think this is already too long a video. I hope this helped you guys somewhat. If you've got some questions, this leads, if we look at week 11, we're now writing the thing in the case analysis paper on the FELA. So here's a link out to Cornell University US Code text 445. I'll make a note. I need a FELA. I think I've got this, but that I need a FELA video. I'm pretty sure I've got one sitting there, but I may not. I've got to kind of check on this. You are always free to call or text me. Again, my telephone number is my cell phone number, 314-703-7948, 314-703-7948. I hope this was helpful. It's basically just trying to say you're going to do fine in this class if you do this work by that date. The real specific instructions in each of these, except maybe with the exception of the LRP, the Titanic, I've got a document that points it out in the LRP. This is a shorthand version of here's some activities you need to do. I think those are good enough instructions for that. Again, any difficulties, give me a call or send me an email. I do remind you that sometimes it helps me if you text me to say, I just sent you an email and tell me what the subject is so I can kind of have it playing in my brain a little before I go there. All right, so I'm going to stop the video here, and thanks for listening.